See if you can, for this hour, to just let go of old techniques, and maybe you have a meditation practice from before. Just leave that aside for a moment. And just see if we can explore together this hour. You just keep your eyes closed. And you watch. You notice this space in which everything arises. The space of your awareness. You notice everything. You notice the sensations of the body. You notice thinking. You notice whatever comes through your senses. But all the time you stay watchful. You don't miss a single moment. And whatever the mind says, watch. Allow this spaciousness. Just relax into this space. And see that you notice everything. The mind may play its tricks and pull you along, but you come back. And if awareness moves to the body, observing thoughts, emotional content, whatever it is, you just allow it to move. You allow yourself to settle in the space that notice everything. In this space where everything comes and goes. Notice that even if the thoughts say something about you can still watch it. It's just another thought. It is not fact. It's coming and going to the background of this stillness, this awareness that is always there. This space is not created through meditation. It's just discovered. We're not adding anything. This is not a process of visualization or creation. It's just watching what is already there. So just allow your experience to happen. Even if the body feels a bit uncomfortable or the thoughts feel uncomfortable, invite them. Invite them into this space. No more resisting, no more controlling. Just allow your experience to happen. I know it can feel very free and a bit scary. So you need to trust a little. And if your mind goes, you come back to watching it. This space, this spaciousness, this awareness is the base from everything that you experience happens. You just get caught in the things appearing in this awareness. So use this moment to get familiar with this very open space in you. And as long as you invite all your experiences and allow them, even the ugly thoughts, even the uncomfortable feeling in the body, there can be a little pain or whatever it is. This space will be kept open. There will be an underlying sense of freedom with everything. But don't touch. Don't touch the thoughts. Even if the egoic mind plays its most seductive game, you just stay. Even if the mind comes with nice things that will happen later, a creative idea, whatever the mind brings, you just stay. You just watch the thoughts coming, staying for a while, and going. And you notice the impermanence of everything. And I know that you can feel a little bit that you're swimming in the open sea. There's nothing to hold on to. It feels so vast. Maybe even a bit scary. But if you relax, you notice that it takes no effort to stay here. And the mind says, this is boring, nothing is happening. But it's just another way for the mind to get back in charge. Because at this moment, you're no longer entertaining the mind. You're no longer following its instructions. You're just resting here in this space between thoughts. you can open your eyes. And just look around and notice the silent space is still there. Stretch your legs if you have to. I like things that are very practical. That you can do them and you see the effect of them. If it's just a belief, I'm not so interested. So even though there's a lot of words here, I try to stay away from philosophy. Someone might say they come to my class and, oh, I went to a philosophy class with Markus Atmananda. I would be sad to hear that. I try to make meditation as practical as possible from the things that I've seen that have permanent effect on us. There are many beautiful techniques that calms you down or makes it feel nice in the moment. But this way of just staying as your awareness and inviting your experience, so the mind becomes spacious and the old tendencies comes up. This is the thing that I've seen that permanently changes. Instead of just stirring the pot, you remove the things out of the pot. So it's not a process of creating something. We're so used to that when we learn something. You know, that you get better and better at it, that you add more and more. If you study a subject, all subjects are like that. But meditation is the art of removing. The art of spaciousness. The art of investigating into what you are. Because at first you might say, yes, meditation makes me more peaceful. But you will start to notice that there is someone who likes the meditation when it goes well and dislikes it when it doesn't go so well. This one is the biggest obstacle in meditation, the meditator. And when you start to watch, you will start to notice that the idea of the person also comes and goes. At some point you will start to see it. And there is a beautiful technique that you can use. Because the egoic mind likes this to click in. It likes to be someone that you give your energy to. It likes to say, this is me, this is what is happening, and that you buy that. And if you ask the question, when this thought arises, the I thought arises, my knees hurt today. To whom does the knees hurt? And you don't give an intellectual answer, you just look. You just look for this person that's supposedly there. And you will notice that there is nothing. And you will come back to the space. And this is one of the most beautiful ways to use the mind to go beyond the mind. And in the beginning, it can feel dry. You ask this question when the thought arises, and it feels like nothing much is happening. But if you continue this practice, there will be, at some point, it will bite. And suddenly you notice from 1 second to the other that you're out of the identification. And from that point on, you will understand the power of self-inquiry. So, in your next practice, if this resonates with you, in your next practice, just watch. And whenever the mind tells you something about yourself, something about who you are, what you're doing, what is happening, ask the question, to whom? And then you look. It's like you're asking the egoic mind to prove to you that the egoic mind exists, and it cannot. There is not a tree inside a tree, there is not a cloud inside a cloud, and there is not a person inside a person. The good news in this is that you are awareness. You are the space in which everything happens. And another good news is, if you trust me enough to experiment with it and try it, you can see it for yourself. It doesn't have to be grounded in belief. This is the power of meditation. And what distinguishes meditation from belief is that the meditator examines, explores, and sees for him or herself. And it's also good news that it's not very difficult. All the tools for doing this is in every human being. But you have to trust. If you think that the little me is going to do it, it will be very difficult. Because this small sense of I is the egoic mind. And it doesn't have the power. But if you let go and just allow yourself to stay as awareness. It will feel simple. Sometimes people call this kind of practice that I talk about advanced, but I find that ridiculous. Because it is so simple. When the instructions are like 10 seconds long for this practice, how can it be advanced? You stay as awareness. Don't identify with thoughts. Rest there. Done. The mind doesn't always like this because there's too little to do. It's very common that people come to me and say, yes, I heard what you say, but I'm trying it like this a little more, or I have this strategy that's... And they've gone into the mind and they try to make the practice like that. But it's very, very simple. Sometimes when you sit and you watch, you will feel so identified with the thoughts that there is no space and you cannot watch. This is also fine. It just feels like whatever the mind says, you're so identified with it, it's your voice. But if you sit time and time again, you will notice that some days there is more space. And then you start to watch. And the more you do, the easier you will understand the watching. You will come to a point where there is no day that you sit that you cannot watch. This spaciousness happens if you stay with it and get accustomed to it. It will be more. And this spaciousness, like one of my students said, she said, when I was with you the first year, I didn't understand much of what was going on. But after a year, I realized that my family had become so much nicer. And this is the detachment of thoughts, because she didn't get triggered anymore. Or if you just get triggered less, then there is space. Because all this triggering from the outside world also has to do with identification. And maybe you're not aware of it. And the nice thing with this technique is that it will just go. All the bullshit will just go and there will be more space. It is very simple, and I have tried so many meditation techniques. And I always teach this. Because if you catch it, I know it can be a little bit hard to catch at first, but if you catch it, you have a very, very profound practice. And it doesn't require a big analysis, or you don't have to go through certain steps, and you don't have to cultivate certain qualities. Just practice this. And when there is space, there's automatically things like empathy. Because if you're not occupied with the little me anymore, it's so easy to see someone else. You can just feel what they feel. You will resonate with them so easily. And you can truly meet them. Because there's not this thing covering the eyes. This thing of identity that makes you just look for whatever it's identified with at the moment. You notice this. When your mind is taken by some fear or anxiety, this is what you see in others. And this is what you also draw to yourself, because the universe seems to be wanting to solve. It wants to show you how you're stuck. And the world can feel brutal in that way sometimes, that it comes in such strong ways. But the universe is conspiring with you. And you will notice it more and more. The more you stay at the spaciousness, the more obvious it will be. And you will notice the fragrances of this stillness, the fragrances of love, this unconditional love, and the sense of oneness that comes with it. It's such a beautiful space, and the sense of completeness. You will feel like ideas like that you're not complete without someone else is a ridiculous notion. You will sense the deep underlying nature of things, that everything is one. And that you can allow anything in this field. Your life will feel like you have chosen it, everything that happens. Not like the egoic mind that wants to cherry pick your life. The egoic mind says, I like this, I don't like this. I have to remove this out of my life so that I become harmonious and that I can really meditate. That is mind. The deep stillness, the awareness in us, it says, come. Thank you. There is so much beauty in our experiencing, naturally, when it's not clouded with ideas. You just have to have a little faith in me to explore this. But this is the greatest treasure in the human kingdom. It's a short session today, so yes, wow, we have time. Good. The obstacle for this is the egoic mind. And it can be quite complex, and it can be quite cunning. And it wants to stay as the master. Because maybe for so many years, the ego has been number one. It's gotten a lot of space, and not consciously. It just creeps in when we're a child, and I think that evolution of the egoic mind is very natural. The child starts to feel, it's mine, it's mine. All these things must happen. But at a certain point, the egoic mind have served its purpose. There's nothing wrong with thinking itself. Practical thinking is perfectly fine. And to do things, thinking can be good. But it's a very poor tool to tell us about who we are. And we're so used to a society where everyone talks about themselves like there is a person. But if you examine it, you understand that the image is very stiff. And your experience is very dynamic, so there will always be a clash. And as soon as we identify, we also create this, we create the suffering of two. Because then something can happen to us and we suffer it. We can be a victim of a situation. All this comes from that we split our experience into two. And please, don't just buy into this. See it, that you look, that you have your own experience of this. I don't want you to just buy into it and, wow, this sounds great. I'm going to recite that. No, please, look. And watch them, how the mind plays and how identification plays. And how it all the time wants to tell you about who you are. Because then it stays in control. It like has its own little agenda, its own little thing that it can go on. But it's also a beautiful tool in a way, because it shows us all the time how we're not free. In the beginning, it can feel like the enemy. You start to watch and you start to notice that the egoic mind just pulls you all the time, pushes your buttons. You might say things like, my thoughts are worse now than before I started to meditate because I see all the bullshit that is going on and how I'm pulled in this and that direction and how it lures me in. But you're just starting to get more aware. And it has no power without you believing it. When the mind says, I cannot do this, if you don't believe it, the thoughts will come, stay for a while, and go. Then it will be like any thought that would be just nonsense to you. Doesn't matter if it says that it relates to you or there comes a thought of a pink elephant or something that means nothing. Can you follow me? But at a certain point, against its will, the egoic mind will start to help you instead. Because it won't be so profound anymore. And it will become more desperate. And it will start to make mistakes. And when there is a deep silence, it can even try to scream because it just wants attention. And then you notice how futile it is. And you can notice it when you just watch it very simply. It loves to switch to whatever works. The mind can tell you, oh, you should really go and talk to that group of people. And you go there and it becomes a bit awkward, and then the mind says, shouldn't have done that. It just plays whatever side works. Notice these things. If you had a friend that acted like that, you would be very suspicious of this friend. That all the time just tried to play you. But we agree with this mind. It just switches and changes. It's for and against. Just notice. And if you start watching like this, you have to be a little patient. You have to give it some time. And because the meditation will be most difficult in the beginning. It will be most difficult to see the effect of it. The mind will pull you in all kinds of directions because for such a long time it had such a big grasp. Some people, you will quite quickly just find some spaciousness. But it can take a little time. So be a little patient with it. And if you come back to it regularly, it will help you. And you can do simple things. When you're here, when you're standing in line for the food, just watch. Just notice the mind, notice the body, notice the gap between watching and the experience. And if you come back to this a couple of times a day, this will help you. And what is also important in this is if you start to prioritize it. If you start to, and usually that happens when you start to see that this actually works and that things, your mind starts to be more spacious, then the motivation is simple. And the higher you prioritize it, you will also notice that you can do this checking in, as I call it. You can do it anytime, even if the mind is agitated. If there is sadness or maybe you're frustrated or whatever it is, you just watch and you sense, oh, this is how frustration feels in the body. And you will notice that the mind makes it much more, that the actual feeling is not that bad, but when it's connected to the mind and when it's resisted, it becomes something. So the more you watch also and just see that the feelings come and go, there will also not be such a big problem for you. Because the content gets so accelerated from believing in identity and the resistance of it. Notice all these things. And notice if there is resistance, your thoughts or your feelings will persist. When you invite it fully, when you say, come. I remember clearly from one retreat I was on that the mind was like, I was very tired, I'd not slept very well, and I was meditating during the day, and the mind said like, I got you. And I said, okay, do your worst. Take me. Come on. I'm tired, now you have your chance. Come on. And complete silence. It cannot take that invitation. You cannot be wholehearted. And because when you're wholehearted, the mind has nowhere to go. If you say, I love my experience, fully, all of it, all the ugliness, all the perversions, all the stupid stuff, just come. You will be silent. If you really mean that, then you embrace it all. So a meditation that is just cherry picking, where you just choose, you have to have your perfect pillow and the candles and the incense and some soft music. Yes, then I can be in stillness. This is very compartmentalized meditation. But when the ugliness of your sorrow and your lust and anger and everything, when everything can be included, then the practice really starts. And it's not just a nice thing. Meditation is not the little moment every day where I get to rest a little bit. When you allow everything, meditation can become really fierce. It will become a sword. We're so much in our life trying to make things nice. And the mind is very much like that. Oh, this is not so nice. I think I will avoid that. I will go more like this because that is nicer. But if you invite, if you sense the stillness and you just allow the darkness to come, and you say, okay, if you're gonna take me, come. I invite you to try it. Then meditation can become so whole, so beautiful, and it will be easy to prioritize it as number one. Is there any questions? Full clarity. No obstacles. I would love if that was the case. It is a great thing to, if you have something that that you're just unsure about, or whatever it is, if you come here and you bring it to the group, it will benefit the others so much. And it will benefit you, absolutely.
I'm here with a friend who's in a lot of pain right now. And I'm wondering how I can relate to her and with present.
Yes.
And meet her in the stillness and this awareness.
Yes.
And you can see how much she's in her suffering.
Yes.
And I'm accepting the pain that it causes to me.
Yes.
I'm inviting it in.
Yes. And
still I'm not really sure what to say.
no. But it's actually quite simple. Because there's so much in the mind that says we have to fix things. And it's so easy to go into when someone tells about their problems to, yes, but you could have this diet, or maybe you could do these exercises, but the best friend just sits with you. It's just there. Doesn't have to say anything, have to do anything. Holding you if you're sad. Doesn't try to fix you. Doesn't want to change you. When you're sad, you need nothing of that. So this way of staying with yourself is staying as awareness. That is staying as your own best friend. And this is where you start. For just as the awareness is just there, it's unconditional love. It just allows everything. It holds everything. That's what you want. Everyone just want to have this feeling of being held. And awareness is that. A friend asked me once, when I was doing the dishes, and I felt very, very blissful. I felt very, very held. And she asked me, what is happening? And I said, I'm held in the arms of Shiva. This is how I feel, very much. It's so much comfort. It feels so complete. And this is the best friend. Your best friend can be Shiva. This stillness, this awareness, just holding you. You can allow anything into that space. And this awareness will not get frightened, rattled, it cannot break. You just notice the qualities of it. It doesn't have a form. You will notice how beautiful it is. In the beginning it can feel subtle. The mind can say it's just a fairy tale, this. But if you practice it, you will notice it. In the beginning, you will blend it a little bit with your egoic mind. And you will get confused who is watching, and there will be some thoughts of watching and all this. But that can also be watched. Can I just ask you, did you feel that you got answer to your question?
without going into strategies and thinking.
Yeah.
Just listening to that.
It's very simple. It's simpler than the mind will ever tell you that it is. The mind will always say that there is something a little bit wrong and something that you have to adjust with it, or it wants to be on the train of doing this meditation. Be aware of that as well. That seems to be one of the largest points of confusion. As soon as the egoic mind wants to be meditating. And it wants to judge it and say, this is going well. This is not going so well. But it's not it doesn't belong. Do you just watch that? In the beginning you will feel a bit meta, like you're always going one step deeper than the mind, but to the mind it seems quite complicated. But it's very natural to just understand that I can watch. Now there is again something that has an opinion. I can watch it. Very simple. Thank you.
Where in your view, connecting to this question, does metta come in?
Sorry?
Metta, like metta?
Metta. Yes, no.
Is like...
Like this bhakti part of it.
Do you do separate meditation with that, or does it appear when you meditate?
I think that it's a good, like this very heartfelt practices. That is what you meant by metta. You can just do also practice of giving thanks to everything. These kind of things feel very natural, and I think it depends a little bit on the person. Some persons are very naturally devotional. They have this bhakti part and the heart part. But other persons with a certain temperament, for example, like myself, when I started, it was very intellectual, and I was very practical with my meditation. It was very dry. So after a while, it was very apparent that this heartfelt part of it is what is needed to be added. So I think that will come naturally. If you practice, you will start to feel like some pieces of the puzzles are missing, and they will become very clear. If you prioritize your practice highly, and then it will be very clear what is missing. Maybe some understanding of something. I have to go to talk to a teacher who knows more about this than me, because I just need intellectual understanding for some people. And for some people it can be, I have to sing to the universe because I think that I am doing everything myself. Then this trust to something bigger is important. Is that what you meant? Because the metta practice, the Buddhist metta is to spread like the love that you feel to everything, so you connect. That is the purpose, right?
Yeah. You start with yourself, so you give compassion to yourself, and then
Yes.
you go through like a friend and a neutral person and someone you have hard times with, and then you spread it to the world.
Yes.
And I think it's really good when you have like these people around you suffering, or if you have hard times with people. I think for me metta gives me more strength than it's my personality, maybe, and focus.
Yes.
But in my view, I've seen many, especially men, who have done meditation and focus and have been drawn to that. but have a really hard time for metta.
Yes.
And even though they need it, as you say, and
Yes.
they get dry, they need reminding of practicing it or encouraging them to
Yes.
practice it, because I guess sometimes when you're really good at something and you like it, it's really hard to do the part that doesn't feel so good. You were talking about feeling, because when you do the focus meditation, if you like the feeling, it's a good feeling, but the metta could be a bit more challenging, or it
Yes.
could be the other way around. For you, it could be like,
Yes, I can tell you from my own experience that the hardest part for me has been exactly what you're talking about. And maybe it's just because I was born in this male body, and it has its quirks, that these soft things and devotional things were the most difficult ones for me. To trust something bigger than the little me. To give myself to the whole, to go to Kirtan and sing my heart out to Shiva. Those things felt too religious to me in the beginning, and I just thought that they were too lovey-dovey. So it was a big thing for me when that clicked. But it will be so obvious. If there is serious practice, then you will really feel that it's too dry. For me, it was like walking the desert. the meditation was so boring. Practiced so much, and it was so boring and so dry and just like very mindy. And when that part came into it, it all made sense. So this is the beautiful path of both the bhakti and the jnani, that they will meet in the middle. The devotional one will need a little bit of the like intellectual understanding and inquiry in these things, and the one who is more intellectual and like the words, it will need the bhakti, and they will meet. This is the only way. I think that our time might be up. Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you all.
Thank you.
And I will have my last... Is it Tuesday today?
Yes.
Yes. So my last session is tomorrow in the afternoon. I will be in the new tent. I don't remember what it is. Garden tent. Yes. And it will be a 2-hour session. So we can go a bit further. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.